Christmas morning in Boulder was cold enough to sting the air when I opened the window. I didn't stand there long. I had cinnamon rolls in the oven and a quiet house to keep steady. My hands shook a little as I reached for the tray, but my mind was clear. I moved slowly, not because I was tired, but because I wanted everything in its place before anyone arrived. The driveway crunched under tires. When I opened the door, Michael stood there with snow in his hair and a smile that tried too hard. "Merry Christmas, Mom." "Merry Christmas." I stepped back so he could enter. He brushed off his coat and looked around like he was checking for something missing. He always did that now. It told me more than his words ever did. He sat at the kitchen table, rubbing his palms together. I placed the rolls down between us. He didn't reach for one. His eyes drifted everywhere except to mine. Something was coming. I could feel it in the stillness of his shoulders. He exhaled. "Mom, you're comfortable with the $6,000 Clara sends every month, right?" The air changed. Not loud, not dramatic, just sharper. I didn't speak immediately. I watched the steam rising from the rolls, watched the way he waited for me to nod. He expected confusion, or gratitude, or maybe a small laugh to cut the tension. He didn't expect the truth. "Son," I said softly, "the church has been feeding me." He blinked. "What? What do you mean?" Before I answered, I heard heels on the walkway, then her voice. "She means she's been stressed," Clara said as she stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. "The holidays can be a lot." She wore a pale coat, soft makeup, perfect posture. She looked like she belonged on a holiday card. Her tone was calm, gentle, polished. She was always polished. I watched her eyes first. They didn't go to me. They went to Michael, always to Michael. "I'm not stressed," I said. "I'm hungry." Clara let out a light laugh. "Quinn, you must have forgotten. Last month, you weren't here last month." Her lips parted for a fraction of a second. Not long, but long enough. She swallowed and glanced at Michael again before answering. "I meant the last time we talked." I nodded. I understood. Michael leaned forward. "Mom, maybe there's a misunderstanding." "There usually is," I said, "but misunderstandings don't empty a bank account." Clara stepped closer, her smile fixed in place. "Quinn, we're helping you. That's what matters." "Helping?" I kept my tone steady. "With what?" "With everything," she said quickly, too quickly. I noticed her hands, the slightest tremor, not from the cold, from fear. Fear always showed in the small movements. "I appreciate the thought," I said. "Mom," Michael said, "Clara sends it every month." "She does?" I kept my voice even. "That's interesting." Clara stiffened. "Why interesting?" I poured coffee into the mugs, placing them neatly on the table. "Because the church pantry stocked my fridge last week." Clara's smile slipped for the first time. "That must have been a mix-up." "No," I said, "it wasn't." She reached for her scarf again, hiding her hands. "People forget, Quinn. It's okay." "I don't forget things I write down," I replied. Michael frowned. "Write down?" "I keep notes," I said. "It helps me see what's real." Silence stretched across the table. She didn't like silence. It pushed her into corners she couldn't decorate her way out of. "You don't need to keep notes," she said. "We're family." I looked at her carefully. "Family is transparent, isn't it?" Michael shifted. "Mom," I raised a hand lightly, "let me ask something simple." Both of them watched me. "Has $6,000 been deposited into my account every month?" "Yes," Clara answered instantly. "Of course," Michael added. "You know that." I held their eyes one at a time. "Interesting." Clara swallowed. "Why do you keep saying that?" "Because it's the only word that fits what I'm learning." Michael pushed back from the table. "Mom, I think you're upset." "No," I said. "I'm aware." Clara tucked her hair behind her ear, trying to compose herself. "We shouldn't do this on Christmas." "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I'm just listening." Her jaw tightened. That told me more than her words. I opened the curtain behind me. Christmas lights from the neighbor's yard glowed against the snow, bright, beautiful, distracting. "They decorate every year," I said. "It feels warm," Michael replied. "Warm," I repeated. An interesting word. Clara stepped closer to Michael, standing half in front of him like she needed to shield him from something. "Quinn, let's talk about this another time. I don't want you getting overwhelmed." "I'm not overwhelmed," I said. "I'm underpaid." She inhaled sharply. Michael ran a hand through his hair. "Mom, come on." "I'm fine," I said, "but I'm paying attention now." I watched Clara's face when I said it. Her eyes widened before she forced them to soften again. She could hide her tone, not her reaction. "We'll come back later," Michael said, taking her arm. "You should," I answered. They walked toward the door. Snow continued falling outside. Before leaving, Clara looked back at me. Her expression wasn't confident, it wasn't smug, it was calculating, measuring what I knew, measuring how dangerous my clarity might be. But she miscalculated one thing. I had been quiet for months, not blind, just quiet. I waited until their car pulled out of the driveway. Then I stepped into my living room, sat down at my table, opened my notebook, and wrote the first line of the truth I intended to follow. $6,000, no deposits, observe everything. It was the calmest moment of my Christmas. The house felt different after they left. Not colder, just clearer. I closed the door, locked it, and stood there for a moment, listening to the quiet settle back into the walls. I wasn't shaken. I wasn't hurt. I was processing. When the mind is steady, silence becomes useful. I walked into the kitchen and cleaned the table slowly, wiping every crumb of cinnamon roll from the surface. Routine steadied my thoughts. When the cloth was folded again, I took my notebook from the drawer and placed it in front of me. The same notebook Clara once told me looked old-fashioned. I opened it to the newest page. The line from the morning stared back at me. $6,000, no deposits, observe everything. I drew a small box next to it for the next detail. First step, verify the pattern. I moved to my small desk near the window and pulled out the stack of bills. Water, electricity, gas. I laid them in a neat row and checked the payment dates. I paid them all. The numbers didn't lie. My bank balance didn't match what a person receiving $6,000 a month should have. I picked up the calculator. I entered each month from the past year. The total should have been $72,000. My total was $24,000. $48,000 missing. I didn't react. I wrote the number down and circled it once, not twice. Once. Enough to mark it, not enough to cloud the page. Next, I opened the pantry. Cans from the church. Boxes labeled with their sticker. The church volunteers had been kind, but kindness has weight. It fills shelves, but it also reveals gaps. I wrote another line. Pantry stocked by church. Confirmed. Then I sat down. I let the timeline play in my head. Clara mentioning last month. Clara pretending she was here. Clara reaching for her scarf with trembling fingers. Clara checking Michael before answering. Michael's nervous tapping. The way he avoided my eyes. The way she filled every silence before he could think for himself. Patterns don't hide when you stop reacting. I closed my eyes and walked through every visit Clara made in the past year. She brought store-bought desserts. She brought holiday candles. She brought Michael. But she never brought an explanation for money she claimed to send. When I asked about her father before, she changed the subject. When I asked about their business expenses, she suddenly remembered an errand. When I mentioned my bank app, she complimented my sweater. Every evasion had a location in memory. I listed them in the notebook. Visit, July. Change subject. Visit, September. Rushed phone call. Visit, November. Avoided kitchen counter. I underlined, avoided kitchen counter. That was the day I almost showed her the empty bank page. She redirected me before I could. I leaned back. The pieces weren't emotional anymore. They were factual. The missing money wasn't a mistake. It wasn't miscommunication. It wasn't aging. It was structure. Someone built a system around my silence, and silence wasn't going to help them anymore. I turned the page and wrote a sentence I learned from Reverend Alden years ago. People who lie tidy usually have messy truths. He told me that after a charity woman inflated her donation receipts. He wasn't wrong then, and he wasn't wrong now. I reopened the drawer and pulled out the old envelope where I kept my medical papers. I checked each form for my signature. Then I checked the pages from the clinic where Clara once helped her father. I remembered signing a release form for him when she asked for help with insurance. The memory wasn't dramatic. It was simple. She stood there with wide eyes, thanking me. I didn't think twice. I helped because people should help when health is involved. I placed those papers beside my notebook and stared at my signature. Clean lines, same pen pressure. If someone needed a copy of my signature, this would be the easiest place to take it. I wrote a small note. Possible signature source, review later. I didn't want to accuse. Accusations make people defensive. I wanted clarity. Clarity makes people reveal themselves. A floorboard creaked lightly under my chair as I turned back to the bills. I stacked them by month and traced my finger over the due dates. December, November, October. Every month lined up the same way. My balance didn't move. $6,000 never entered the account. I placed the calculator down and breathed evenly. Panic wasn't useful. Precision was. I made a list of the next steps. Verify deposits with the bank. Request printed history. Compare bills with expected balance. Track Clara's visits against missing months. My handwriting stayed straight. No shaking. If somebody wanted to rewrite my reality, they would need more than soft tones and Christmas smiles to do it. I closed the notebook and carried it to the living room. The afternoon light came through the blinds in narrow lines. I sat in my chair, opened the book again, and reread every number. When you read your own notes enough times, truth stops hiding. I heard the hum of the refrigerator, the wind outside, and the faint tick of the hallway clock. No voices, no arguments, no pressure, just information. I added one more line at the bottom of the page. Don't confront, observe, let patterns talk. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't anger. It was a plan, a calm plan. I looked around the room. Nothing out of place, nothing dramatic, just a home with a woman who wasn't confused and wasn't overwhelmed, a woman who had finally decided the numbers mattered. I placed the notebook on the armrest and folded my hands. The real beginning wasn't Christmas morning, it was this moment. The next morning, the snow on my porch looked untouched. I stepped outside slowly, holding my notebook under my coat. The cold didn't bother me. I had one goal: verify the numbers. Nothing felt heavy when I had a direction. I brushed the snow from my steps and walked to the car. Every breath came out clear, not shaken. Clarity gives the body a different kind of warmth. At the bank, the heater hummed as people stood in short lines, clutching deposit slips. I walked to the counter and waited. The young teller glanced at me quickly before returning to her computer. When she called me over, she gave me the same polite smile I receive from people who assume age equals confusion. How can I help you? I placed my notebook on the counter. I'd like to check the deposits made into my account this year. Her smile froze. You can check that on your phone. My phone shows no deposits. I want confirmation. She looked at the screen again. Maybe you're looking in the wrong section. Happens sometimes. I'm not looking in the wrong section. My tone stayed even. I need the printed record. She straightened slightly. There haven't been any new deposits since April. The bank suddenly felt smaller. Not louder, just smaller. April, 8 months. No deposits. I'll need the full monthly breakdown, I told her. She typed with hesitation, eyes flicking toward the manager's desk. Are you sure? We don't usually print unless it's necessary. It's necessary. I tapped the notebook once. She exhaled and retrieved the printer codes. The machine behind her began clicking, each page sliding out with clean precision. That sound matched exactly what I expected. Paper telling truth without emotion. When she stacked the sheets and handed them over, her expression shifted. Everything's there, but... Her lips pressed together. Someone already requested this information last month. I watched her fingers. They fidgeted with the corner of the paper. Who requested it? She hesitated again. I can't release that. Then tell me this. I responded, keeping my voice level. Did the caller claim to be me? She swallowed. I'm not allowed to confirm that. Her refusal was confirmation. I slid the papers into my notebook and closed it gently. Thank you. As I turned to leave, she stepped back. If there's confusion, maybe talk with your family. Sometimes relatives handle deposits. I looked at her for a quiet moment. If I were confused, I wouldn't know the exact month you stopped sending statements. Her face paled a little, and she didn't answer. She didn't have to. I walked out into the cold air. The snow crunched beneath my boots, crisp and sharp. Not poetic, just sound. Simple, clear sound. In the car, I opened the notebook and placed the printed statements beside it. April was the last deposit. Every month after that was empty. My handwriting stayed steady as I wrote, deposits confirmed. None since April. Unapproved request for my records. Caller posing as me. I drew a thin line under the note. Thin lines help the mind organize. No emotion, just facts. I leaned back and considered the next step. Someone called pretending to be me. Someone needed my information. Someone wanted access. Clara. Her face from Christmas morning appeared in my mind, not emotional, not dramatic, just precise. The tremor in her hand, the glance at Michael, the quick corrections, every piece aligned. But alignment wasn't enough. I needed proof. I folded the papers neatly and placed them in the passenger seat. The town looked pale under the morning light as I drove to the grocery store parking lot. I parked far from the entrance, the quiet corner where nobody paid attention to anyone. I pulled out my notebook again. The patterns felt loud now, even in silence. I wrote, check account number listed on deposits. Compare to my actual number. I already knew they wouldn't match. But knowing and proving are two different things, and proof wins. I looked at the statements. The number receiving the deposits wasn't mine. It was close, but not exact. An added digit, a rewritten sequence. Familiar enough to pass a glance, wrong enough to be intentional. I circled the account number, alternate account using my name. I didn't need to react. I didn't need to panic. I simply absorbed it. A knock on my window startled no fear in me. It was just an older man returning his cart. He nodded politely, and I nodded back. He walked away. Just a moment in a parking lot. Normal life happening, even while truth unfolded. I refocused and wrote, consistent structure. Caller. Fake account. Missing funds. Clara timeline inconsistent. The pattern was no longer a suspicion. It was a shape forming in front of me. Still, I wanted to verify the account signature. I wanted the exact origin. Clara wouldn't be careless, but fear always pushes people to take shortcuts. That was her weakness, not mine. I started the car and headed toward Michael's office building. I didn't plan to confront him. Confrontation wastes energy. I only planned to speak with the accounting department. They handled transfers, they handled signatures, they handled truth on paper. Traffic was light. The roads were clear. My thoughts were clearer. When I reached the building, I walked through the glass doors and approached the receptionist. She smiled automatically. Do you have an appointment? No, I need the accounting department. She blinked. For what purpose? Account verification. Her smile thinned. They're busy today. So am I. My tone never rose. She paused, then buzzed a line. Someone will be out shortly. A young accountant approached. His eyes darted to my notebook before he even greeted me. Fear or guilt, or both. Can I help you? His voice carried tension. I'm here to confirm the receiving account of the transfers made under my name. He shifted. We don't usually release that without approval. I'm the approval. His throat tightened. This might take time. I have time. He glanced back toward the hallway. Wait here. He walked away quickly, almost too quickly. I watched him disappear. Watching people retreat tells you more than watching them speak. I didn't need to finish the conversation to understand something deeper was being protected. Not by policy, by fear. Fear always reveals more than words. I stood there with my notebook in hand, steady and patient. The young man didn't return for several minutes. That was enough information for now. I had confirmation from the bank. I had avoidance from the office. The pattern was louder than ever. I turned toward the exit and stepped back out into the cold. My next steps were already forming. The next afternoon, I walked to the small church at the end of Maple Street. The snow on the walkway was half melted, the kind that leaves wet prints behind. I didn't come for comfort. I came for clarity. Reverend Alden was in his office sorting donation forms when I stepped inside. He looked up the moment I entered. "You're early," he noted while placing the papers aside. I needed a quiet room. I closed the door gently and sat across from him. He watched me with the kind of patience that never pushed. That was why I trusted him. He let truth arrive at its own pace. He poured tea into 2 cups, placing one in front of me. "You're thinking through something. I'm verifying something." His eyes lowered to the notebook I placed between us. "You brought the records." "Records help me see what people try to cover." He nodded once and leaned back. "Show me what you see." I opened the notebook to the page marked by the bank receipts. I didn't dramatize anything. I simply pointed to the printed months. "No deposits since April," I explained. 8 months missing. And someone called the bank requesting these records using my name. He studied the pages carefully. "You recognized the pattern quickly." "It was always there. I just wasn't looking directly at it." He folded his hands on the desk. "What do you plan to do next?" "Watch." I turned another page. "People who lie repeat themselves. I only have to listen." I wasn't asking for advice. I wasn't asking for sympathy. I was documenting my direction. He understood. A light knock interrupted us. The door opened before either of us spoke. Clara stepped in. Her presence filled the room like a misplaced ornament, bright, polished, and completely out of tune with where she stood. Her coat was crisp, her scarf wrapped neatly. She carried a gift bag with red tissue paper. "Oh, I didn't know you were meeting," she greeted, forcing a warm tone. "I was just dropping off a small donation." She placed the bag on the desk with a smile she hoped looked graceful. The Reverend thanked her politely. I watched her hands. No gloves today. Her fingers were tense, nails pressed into her palm. She wasn't here to donate anything. She glanced at my notebook. The look lasted less than a second, but it was enough. "You're out today, Quinn," she remarked with a soft chuckle. "I was going to stop by your house later." I needed fresh air. She nodded, stepping closer. "Good. You've been overwhelmed lately." "I've been organized lately," I corrected. She blinked once. "Of course." I closed my notebook slowly. "Clara, let me ask you something small." Her posture tightened. She was bracing for an accusation I wasn't going to give. Direct accusations make people defensive. Questions make them reveal themselves. "You remember the last time you visited?" I asked. "Of course." "Was that the day you wore your red scarf or your gray one?" Her expression froze for a microsecond before she forced a laugh. "Red. No, gray. Actually, well, why does it matter?" "It doesn't." I watched her eyes. "I'm just tracking the days." Her throat moved in a small swallow. She didn't like the phrase, "tracking the days." It pushed against the structure she'd built. The Reverend looked between us, sensing something shifting under the surface. Clara smoothed her coat and reached for the gift bag again as if reconsidering something. She placed it back down. "I should get going. Busy afternoon." I held her gaze. "How is your father?" Her body stiffened. Her voice lowered slightly. "He's getting by." "You mentioned his health last month." Her eyes flickered again. This time she couldn't hide it. "Yes, I did." "You weren't here last month." Her fingers curled around her scarf. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. She forced another small laugh. "Maybe I mixed up the weeks. These days run together." "No," I murmured. "Only for some people." She looked toward the Reverend. "The holidays are stressful. I'm sure Quinn understands." "I understand timelines," I responded. "They stay consistent unless something is wrong." That landed. Deep. She felt it. Her breathing shifted, slightly shallow, slightly uneven. She wasn't scared of being accused. She was scared of being understood. "I really should go," she murmured. "Take your time," I answered. She left quickly. Too quickly. The door shut behind her with a soft click. The Reverend looked at me. "You pressed without raising your voice." "That's the point," I replied. "People reveal more when they think you're calm." He picked up the gift bag. "Do you want this?" "No." I turned back to my notebook. "Check the receipt inside. She won't remember what day she bought it." He opened the bag. Inside was a candle and a receipt from the previous week. A week she claimed she visited me. She hadn't. "Your timeline is accurate," he confirmed. "Her timeline is not." I wrote in the notebook. "Discrepancy. Gift purchased on week she didn't visit." I tapped the page once, firm but controlled. "You're building a record," he observed. "I'm documenting the lie," I corrected. "She'll repeat it. They always do." He watched me for a moment. "You're not doing this out of anger." "Anger wastes time," I said. "Truth doesn't." I placed the receipt in the center of the notebook, flattening it with my palm. Another piece of the puzzle. Another line of consistency. "I won't confront her," I added. "Not yet." He nodded. "You're choosing the careful path." "I'm choosing the right moment." I closed the notebook and slid it into my bag. Clara thought she controlled the narrative, but narrative belongs to the one who keeps record. I rose from the chair. "Thank you for the room." "You always have it," he replied. I woke before the sun. Not from anxiety, from structure. When the mind is focused, sleep becomes efficient. I prepared a simple breakfast, then placed my notebook on the table and opened to the page where I listed every inconsistency Clara had slipped through. Red scarf, gray scarf, the purchased candle, the non-existent visit. Each detail, a quiet knock on the same door. Today, I needed confirmation from the place where the transfers originated, Michael's company. Not from him, from the people who handled the numbers. The truth in a family can bend, the truth in a ledger cannot. I dressed simply and drove across town. The building was glass and steel, clean lines, designed to impress clients. I walked through the main entrance with steady steps, notebook in my hand. The receptionist looked up from her screen. "Good morning. Do you have an appointment?" "No, I need to speak with the accounting department." Her smile tightened slightly. "They're busy. Is this regarding payroll?" "Transfers," I clarified. "Under my name." She paused before picking up the phone. "One moment." She murmured something quietly, then pointed toward the hallway. "Someone will meet you." A young accountant approached within minutes. His shoulders stiffened the second he saw the notebook in my hand. He introduced himself as Daniel, offering a small handshake that lacked firmness. "I can walk you to our floor," he offered while gesturing down the hall. I followed him to the elevator. He pressed the button, eyes fixed straight ahead. When the doors closed, I noticed his fingers tapping his thigh. Fast, uneven. Not boredom, nerves. The elevator opened to a wide office with cubicles arranged in precise rows. Computers hummed. Printers clicked. None of it unsettled me. Numbers speak the same language everywhere. Daniel led me to a small conference room. "One of our senior accountants will bring the files you need." "I don't need files," I replied as I sat. "I need confirmation." He hesitated in the doorway, unsure whether to stay. "Would you like water?" "No." Accuracy. His throat bobbed in a nervous swallow before he stepped out. Moments later, a woman walked in holding a folder. She looked older than Daniel, but younger than me, with the expression of someone who had been warned before entering the room. "I'm Maria. I understand you're looking into some account activity." She placed the folder between us. "I'm verifying deposits listed under my name," I explained. $6,000 monthly. She drew a breath and opened the folder carefully. "These records show the transfers were processed each month." "To which account?" She turned the papers so I could see the numbers. I leaned forward, tracing the digits with my finger. One brief, quiet moment passed before I recognized the truth. "That is not my account," she shifted. "It's under your name. Names are easy to copy. Numbers are not." My tone remained steady. Who authorized the change? She looked at the door, then back at me. I shouldn't disclose internal details. I placed my notebook on the table, opening it to the bank confirmations. Deposits stopped entering my real account in April, yet your records show transfers every month. That means someone rerouted them. Her jaw tightened. Conflict flickered through her eyes, professional loyalty versus personal conscience. I continued, I'm not asking for speculation, only accuracy. She glanced at the hallway again. Let me check one more thing. She left the room quickly. I waited without impatience. Time is a tool when you understand its rhythm. Through the glass walls, I watched employees passing notes, whispering, glancing toward my room. Fear travels fast in places where truth has been stretched thin. Maria returned with another paper. The routing change was submitted with a signed authorization. Show me. She slid the form across the table. The signature at the bottom was unmistakably shaped like mine, but not mine. The strokes were too heavy. The loop in the Q too sharp. The spacing wrong. A counterfeit built by someone who understood the outline, but not the hand. I examined it closely. Then I opened my notebook to the page where I kept photocopies of my legitimate signatures, bank forms, medical releases, church documents. I aligned the forged version beside them. The match wasn't perfect, but it was close enough that someone believed it would pass. Where did the signature on file originate? I asked. Maria lowered her voice. It was uploaded using a scan from a medical document. My medical records were only accessed once this year. I kept my eyes on the signature. When I helped Clara complete paperwork for her father. Silence formed. Not the uncomfortable kind, the confirming kind. Maria straightened. I shouldn't be telling you this. You're not telling me anything, I responded. I'm showing you. Her shoulders relaxed slightly, as if relieved she didn't have to carry the weight of protecting someone's lie. I need a copy of this, I added. She nodded. I'll print one. While she stepped out, I wrote in the notebook, forged signature, sourced from father's hospital file. Each word landed with precision, not anger, precision. When Maria returned, she handed me the printed copy. Please keep this discreet. I always keep truth discreet until it's ready. Her eyes dropped to the signature. Someone went to a lot of trouble. Trouble is the easy part, I told her. Believing they won't get caught is harder. I gathered the documents and stood. As I walked toward the elevator, the office grew quiet around me. Conversations paused. Eyes followed. People often sense when a truth they've ignored is walking out the door. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the lobby button. The mirrored walls reflected a woman who wasn't shaken or confused. Someone who had just traced a straight line between theft and motive. Outside, cold air hit my face, clear and honest. I opened my notebook on the hood of my car and wrote the final line for the day. She stole trust before she stole money. By the time I reached home, the light outside had turned pale. Snow lined the porch rail, thin enough to show the wood underneath. I unlocked the door, stepped in, and placed my notebook on the kitchen table. I hadn't been home more than 10 seconds when I heard footsteps on the porch again. Steady, deliberate, not rushed. I looked through the front window before opening the door. A man stood there, coat dusted with snow, posture straight. I recognized him from photos Michael once showed me. Mr. Lawson, his chief accountant. He wasn't someone who made casual visits. I opened the door. You're here early. He adjusted his glasses slightly. I needed to see you. I gestured for him to step inside. He wiped his shoes on the mat with the kind of care that hinted he respected the space he entered. His eyes moved around the room once, picking up details the same way I did, quietly, without announcing it. What brings you here? I asked. He held a black folder against his chest. The way his fingers gripped the edge told me what was inside wasn't minor. He placed it on the table with precision. I've been reviewing company-level financial activity tied to Michael's personal accounts. You're here because of what I found, I responded. He dipped his head. Partially. and because of what I've seen over the past year. I opened the folder. Inside were color-coded printouts, each marked with exact dates, amounts, vendor names, and transaction IDs. Range Rover service fees, Aspen Lodge weekends, designer shopping receipts, spa memberships, and hospital charges from a facility I recognized immediately. Clara's father. I turned one page after another. These weren't Michael's purchases. No, Lawson replied firmly, and he doesn't know about most of them. You have access to all of this? I monitor risk across all high-level accounts, he explained. It's my responsibility. But at some point it became clear Clara was using Michael's funds in ways he didn't authorize. I lifted one document. These hospital charges, are they recent? I've tracked them for 11 months, he confirmed. She was trying to cover her father's medical debt. It started small, then escalated. I nodded once, slowly. Fear drives escalation. His expression tightened. She cornered me 2 months ago. Told me if I exposed anything, she would report me for misconduct. She threatened my position. You believed she'd do it. He drew a sharp breath. She's persuasive, and she knows Michael trusts her. I tapped the receipts lightly. You came anyway. I came because you're the only one who's been watching her the way I have, he admitted. And because you don't react emotionally. That makes you safer to talk to. Safety doesn't come from distance. It comes from clarity. I pulled my notebook closer. These transactions match the missing deposits. He observed my notes. Your records are better than most internal reports. People reveal themselves through patterns, I responded. I track the patterns. Clara repeats hers. He exhaled slowly. You're not surprised by any of this? No. His shoulders lowered a fraction, relief mixed with fatigue. He wasn't hoping I would panic. He was hoping I wouldn't. I pointed to one highlighted line. Corporate card attempt? He confirmed with a nod. She tried to use the company card once. It flagged immediately. I confronted her. She claimed it was an accident. You didn't believe her. I couldn't prove otherwise. I closed the folder gently. Now we can. He watched me for a moment before leaning forward. I want to help you. But she's careful. She covers her trail. And Michael won't see any of this unless someone puts it directly in front of him. He won't see it yet, I corrected. Not until the line between truth and loyalty is undeniable. Lawson absorbed that. You have a strategy. I have structure, I replied. Strategy comes after confirmation. He rubbed his palms together lightly, a sign of nerves returning. I can provide more internal documents, but I need assurance nothing leads back to me. You're a witness, I told him, not a target. His eyes softened. You speak like someone who's handled worse. I've handled life, I answered. It trains you. He watched me write another line in the notebook. Clara, fear-based spending, debt, desperation, rerouted funds. You don't judge her, he noted quietly. I assess her, I corrected. Judgment clouds action. Understanding clarifies it. He nodded again. What's next? Documenting, I responded. Nothing more, nothing less. She'll expose herself when she believes she's safe. You're waiting. I'm preparing. He looked toward the window, watching flakes drift in slow intervals. Michael trusts her too much. Trust turns into blindness when repeated long enough. He shifted his stance. I've worked for him for 12 years. I've never seen him this isolated. Clara built isolation into the relationship, I explained. It keeps control intact. He met my eyes. And you're breaking that. I'm revealing what already existed. A small silence formed. Not heavy, simply present. He finally reached for the folder. There's more. I'll bring it tomorrow. I placed my hand on the cover before he could close it. Leave this here. You're certain? I keep records. They're safer with me. He gave one final nod. Then I'll come back. I walked him to the door. As he stepped off the porch, snow crunched beneath his shoes. He paused once, turning back toward me. "You're not what Clara thinks you are," he told me softly. "She believes you're harmless." "And that," I replied, "is her mistake." He lowered his gaze respectfully, then walked toward his car. The next morning, I arranged the black folder, my notebook, and a pot of hot tea on the dining table. I didn't intend to rush. Strategy works best when built slowly, piece by piece, until it becomes impossible to escape. At 9 sharp, the front door knocked. I already knew who it was. Lawson entered with his usual careful step. "I brought the rest of the documents." "Good. We'll need all of them." Before he could sit, Emily Rowan stepped in behind him. She carried a leather briefcase and a controlled expression that belonged to someone who spent a lifetime dissecting lies. Her presence wasn't dramatic, just decisive. "I understand we're reviewing financial misconduct," she greeted while removing her gloves. "We're reviewing a pattern," I clarified. "Misconduct is only a symptom." Emily placed her briefcase on the table. "Let's begin." We sat around the table, the three of us forming a quiet triangle. Lawson opened the black folder and spread the pages carefully. Emily removed a legal pad and uncapped her pen. "Tell me everything," Emily requested while scanning the receipts. I slid my notebook forward. "This starts 8 months ago. Deposits missing, fake account, forged signature sourced from a medical file. Clara's timeline breaks in multiple places, and she repeats her stories too often." Emily raised a brow. "You tracked all of this alone?" "Tracking is simple when people reveal themselves without realizing." Lawson pushed forward a stack of highlighted statements. "These were purchases tied to Michael's funds. She covered her father's medical expenses at first, then leisure spending escalated." Emily reviewed the pages quickly, her eyes narrowing at the forged signature. "She attempted to copy your handwriting. Not bad, but not good enough." "She uses fear to motivate her choices," I explained. "When people fear losing stability, they rationalize anything." Emily tapped the signature with her pen. "This can win a case, easy." "I don't want a case yet," I responded. Both looked at me. "Then what do you want?" Emily asked. "A clean exposure," I answered. "Not confrontation. People resist confrontation, but they walk into their own reflection freely." Emily leaned back. "You want her to reveal herself." "She already believes I'm not paying attention," I continued. "That belief will make her careless." Lawson nodded slowly. "She relaxes around you. She assumes you don't notice her inconsistencies." "That's the advantage," I replied. "Her confidence is the weak point." Emily crossed her arms. "So what's the plan?" I poured tea into 3 cups. "We let her think nothing is wrong." Lawson frowned. "That feels risky." "Only if we push too soon," I answered. "A liar becomes more honest when they feel safe." Emily glanced at my notebook. "You wrote something earlier. Show me." I turned the page where I charted Clara's behaviors. Red pen marks followed her visits, calls, purchases, and statements. "You're treating this like a behavioral analysis," Emily observed. "Patterns don't lie," I replied. "People do." Emily softened her tone. "You have a very controlled mind, Quinn. Most mothers would panic." "Panic wastes clarity." Lawson looked at both of us. "What do we need from Clara?" "Contradictions," I said, "and she's already giving them." Emily considered this. "If we leave her comfortable, she'll offer more." "She overheard me once," I reminded them. "When she came by unannounced, she listened at the door. I knew she would." "What did she hear?" Lawson asked carefully. "Part of a conversation about timelines," I explained. "Nothing incriminating, enough for her to think she misunderstood." Emily's lips curled slightly. "You created misdirection." "I created opportunity," I corrected. "Now she believes I've stopped questioning." Emily nodded, impressed. "So the next step is simple. Maintain the environment. Keep your tone soft. Ask questions that appear harmless." "Clara fills silence with details," I added, "and details help us." Lawson exhaled with slow relief. "This is the first time I've felt there's a path out of this." "Truth is always the path," I answered. "You just needed it organized." Emily tapped her pen against her pad. "Let's outline roles. You observe. Lawson supplies documents. I prepare legal groundwork quietly. Good, I responded. No direct conflict until the foundation is ready. Lawson leaned forward. Do you want me to notify Michael? Not yet, I replied firmly. He's still under her influence. He needs to see what she reveals at the right time, not through accusation. Emily agreed. If he hears this prematurely, he'll defend her. That's typical in manipulated relationships. He defends the idea of her, I explained, not the truth of her. Lawson lowered his gaze. He trusts her because she built that trust carefully. She isolates him. And I won't destroy that trust with my voice, I stated. I'll let her destroy it with her own. Emily's eyes sharpened. You're building an environment where she will contradict herself in front of witnesses. I nodded. What's the trigger event? She asked. A public moment, I answered. Something calm, not confrontational. Something she believes she can control. Lawson considered this. She likes charity events. They make her feel respectable. I felt the familiar weight of clarity settle. Good. That gives us a place. Emily leaned closer. You think she'll slip there? She always slips when she performs, I explained. Performance increases pressure, and pressure exposes truth. Emily smirked. You should have been an investigator. I lived long enough, I replied. You learn to read people when you stop letting them tell you who they are. We continued working for another hour. Every detail was reviewed, every pattern aligned, every inconsistency cataloged. I wrote everything in the notebook with slow, steady strokes. When the final page was filled for the morning, I closed the notebook. She'll reach out soon, I predicted. Emily placed her papers back into her briefcase. What makes you sure? Because people always check the doors they think they left unlocked. Lawson gripped the folder. What do you want us to do when she does? Nothing, I answered. Let her approach me. Let her talk. Let her feel secure. Emily exchanged a look with Lawson. Both understood. You're in full control of this, she murmured. I'm not controlling her, I replied. I'm controlling the rhythm. Lawson stood and put on his coat. You give calm a different meaning. I opened the door for them. Calm keeps the truth steady. They stepped out onto the porch. Snow cracked under their feet. I watched them drive away before returning to the table. My notebook remained exactly where I left it. I opened it and wrote one more line. The fall happens right after the breath of relief. Reverend Alden's invitation arrived the following week. A quiet Christmas after dinner for close friends and longtime volunteers. Nothing formal, nothing loud. Exactly the kind of setting where people relax enough to expose themselves. I accepted without hesitation. Clara loved these gatherings. She loved being seen as compassionate, composed, generous. Performative environments make people predictable. The evening of the dinner, I wore a simple pine green sweater and a neat pair of slacks. Nothing that drew attention. Calm wardrobe creates calm expectations. I placed my notebook inside my purse, not because I planned to use it, but because having structure nearby steadies the mind. When Michael's car pulled into my driveway, I stepped outside before he honked. He looked tired, eyes slightly unfocused, shoulders rounded. Ready, Mom? He asked gently. I'm always ready. Clara leaned across him, smiling. It'll be a nice evening. Everyone's excited to see you. Her tone carried sweetness, but her eyes scanned my hands, the way they always did, checking for papers, folders, envelopes. I kept my purse closed. On the drive over, Clara filled the car with small talk. Work stress, charity updates, a neighbor's new puppy. Michael nodded along, not noticing how she monitored my expression after each comment, checking if anything struck a nerve. I gave her nothing. Silence is a tool, and tools work best when used sparingly. We arrived at the church hall just after 6. Warm lights, quiet conversations, soft greetings. Plates of turkey, potatoes, and rolls lined the tables. It looked like a peaceful gathering, but peace is only the surface of any room. Reverend Alden approached us. Glad you could make it, he greeted as he handed me a plate. We're grateful for the invitation, Clara replied quickly, stepping forward as though representing all three of us. Michael placed a hand on her back. Let's find seats. We sat at a rectangular table near the center of the room. People walked by, greeting Clara with compliments about her outfit. She absorbed every word like recognition was oxygen. That was her comfort zone. Comfort leads to mistakes. Once the first wave of small talk faded, the table settled into natural conversation. I waited for the right pause, just long enough for attention to soften, not long enough to seem intentional. Then I turned toward Clara with a mild, harmless tone. "Clara," I began, "I've been meaning to ask you something simple." Her smile paused. "Of course." "You mentioned you handle the $6,000 each month. I was thinking about organizing some paperwork. Remind me, what day do you usually send it?" Her posture straightened almost imperceptibly. She wasn't expecting the question. She glanced at Michael, then returned her attention to me. "The 10th, she answered casually. Before she could look away, Michael responded, "No, Clara. It's always been the 15th. The shift at the table was immediate, small, quiet, but unmistakable. A 2-second silence where every eye flickered between the two of them. Clara attempted a quick recovery. "Right, yes, the 15th. I meant the 15th. I was thinking of something else." "You never mix up dates," Michael noted, confused. Her breath caught. "Everyone forgets details sometimes." "You don't," he replied honestly. "You're careful about everything." She forced a laugh. "It's been a long month. Holidays, charity work, my head's spinning." I kept my face still. "It's understandable. Accuracy takes energy." The line hit her harder than I expected. Her shoulders tensed. She lifted her glass, fingers trembling just enough for me to notice. She cleared her throat. "Well, I manage the budget for both of us. I handle everything. I do it for the family." Michael frowned. "Clara, we discussed the budget together." Her voice raised half a notch. "You're busy, Michael. I take care of things you don't have time to track. I try to protect us." "Protect us from what?" he asked. She hesitated. "Complications." The word hung in the air, vague, defensive, revealing. I leaned slightly forward. "Which complications?" She blinked fast. "You know, expenses, uncertainties." Michael looked at her with growing confusion. "You've never mentioned any uncertainties." She reached for his hand. "I've managed everything so you wouldn't have to stress." "You never told me the dates changed," he responded, "or that you send the money on your own with no oversight." Her composure cracked. "That's not what I meant," she insisted. "You're twisting this." "No one is twisting anything," I replied softly. "We're only listening." The room had quieted around us, not with judgment, just interest, like people sensing an unexpected shift. Clara glanced around, realizing attention had shifted toward her. She lowered her voice. "I did it for this family," she insisted. "Your mother doesn't need that much money. She's fine." Michael's jaw tightened. "That isn't your decision." Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. She was trying to rebuild the story, but the pieces no longer fit. I tapped my purse lightly. Dates don't conflict unless something is misplaced. Her eyes widened, just slightly, as though she felt the ground shift beneath her. "I changed the date once," she announced quickly. "Just once, for convenience." Michael leaned forward. "Clara, you told me last week you sent it on the 15th. Now you're saying the 10th. Which is it?" Her voice sharpened. "It doesn't matter." "It matters," he replied firmly. She turned to me, expression thinning. "Why are you bringing this up now?" "Because clarity keeps families stable." Her breath hitched. She looked away, unable to hold my gaze any longer. Reverend Alden approached our table with new plates. He didn't interrupt, but the timing forced Clara to sit quietly as he placed dishes down. The moment stretched across several more beats of silence. When he walked away, I folded my napkin calmly. "Thank you for explaining the dates, Clara. I'll write it down later." Her eyes darted to my purse again. Panic flickered through her expression, small but unmistakable. "I don't think you understand what I deal with," she muttered, voice tight. "I'm holding everything together." Michael looked torn, love pulling him one way, logic the other. "Clara," he murmured, "what aren't you telling me?" Her composure finally cracked. "I'm trying to protect us," she repeated, voice shaking. "Your mother doesn't even need that money. She has everything she needs." I met her eyes directly. "The church fed me, Clara, remember?" She fell silent, completely silent. I held her gaze for one long, clear moment. "I'll note the 15th, I concluded. The morning after the dinner, the neighborhood was quiet. Snow covered the porch in a thin, undisturbed layer. I opened my front door to let in fresh air, and that's when I noticed something placed neatly under the awning, a manila envelope sealed with clear tape. No note, no name, but I knew exactly who had left it. I lifted it carefully and stepped inside. The weight told me it held more than receipts. I brought it to the kitchen table, set my notebook beside it, and opened the flap. Inside was a thick stack of documents clipped together. Luxury purchases, credit charges, travel bookings, subscription renewals, and hospital bills with Clara's father's name printed across the top. Far more than what Lawson had shown me before. He must have stayed up half the night gathering these. I sorted each page into piles, reading dates, times, merchant locations. Every number lined up with the missing deposits. Nothing in these pages surprised me. Not the spending, not the dates, not the escalation. What caught my attention were 3 items that didn't match the timelines Clara had claimed during her previous visits. Bills from weeks she said she was caring for her father out of state. Purchases made on days she claimed she never left the house. And a cash withdrawal made exactly 2 hours before she visited me with a basket of muffins last month. I placed my finger on that entry. "You slipped," I murmured to myself. Not with anger, with recognition. I added a new line to my notebook. New inconsistencies. Withdrawal plus false errands plus travel overlap. While I organized the papers into chronological order, the hum of a car engine approached the house. I glanced out the window. A white SUV pulled into my driveway, Clara's. She stepped out quickly, wearing a thick coat, hair pinned back, face tense in a way she couldn't hide behind makeup. She wasn't here for a visit. She was here for a check. I opened the door before she reached it. "You're out early." She forced a tight smile. "I was driving by and thought I'd see how you're doing." "You never drive through this street unless you're heading somewhere specific." She blinked, caught off guard. Well, the road was clear. I needed some air." Her hands moved nervously inside her pockets. She kept glancing behind me, scanning the house from the doorway, looking for something, or making sure something wasn't visible. "Do you want to come inside?" I offered calmly. She hesitated, then stepped in. The second her eyes landed on the kitchen table, her breath hitched. The manila envelope sat there wide open. Her reaction wasn't dramatic. It was sharp, immediate. Her gaze locked onto the papers like her body recognized danger before her mind processed it. I walked past her and sat at the table. "I've been reviewing some information this morning." Her eyes didn't leave the envelope. "Information?" I poured myself water. "Routine records, household things. I like keeping details straight." She moved closer, voice soft but strained. "You know, if you ever need help with paperwork, you can ask me." "I don't need help," I replied. "I need consistency." Her eyes flicked again toward the envelope. "Is that mine?" "No." "Where did it come from?" "Where truth usually comes from. Someone who finally stopped being afraid." Her jaw tightened. "Did Lawson come here?" I didn't answer that. I didn't need to. The silence itself delivered clarity. She stepped back, exhaling through her nose. "He's making things up. He doesn't like me. You must know that." "I know he's careful," I responded. "Careful people rarely invent anything." Her gaze darted to the open flap on the envelope again. She recognized the format of the hospital receipts. Her father's name was printed on top of the stack. She swallowed hard. "That isn't what you think." "I think it's exactly what it is." She brushed her hair behind her ear with a trembling hand. "I've been under stress. My father's bills. The pressure." You don't understand." "I understand pressure better than you think," I replied evenly. "But pressure doesn't reroute deposits." She flinched. For a moment, she looked like she might sit at the table, explain everything, soften, open up. But survival instinct won. Her mask returned. "I really should go," she murmured. "You just arrived." "I forgot something at home." Her pacing shifted, shoulders lifted, breathing uneven. She wasn't planning to leave. She was planning to regroup. "Take your time," I told her. That rattled her more than anything else. She stepped out of the house quickly, got into her SUV, and pulled away too fast for a residential street. Tires pressed the snow flat behind her, leaving a jagged set of tracks. I closed the door and returned to the table. The envelope stayed where I left it, open, patient, honest. By afternoon, the house grew quiet. I prepared tea and reviewed the documents again, writing notes in the margins. Around midnight, snow began falling heavier. I wrapped a shawl around my shoulders and was about to go upstairs when a faint sound came from the back porch. Not a loud noise, a cautious one. I walked to the kitchen window and checked the camera feed Lawson helped me install last month. The motion light had activated. On the screen, a figure stepped into view. Clara, bundled in a coat, glancing around frantically as she approached the back door. She tried the handle, then she crouched, pressing her hands against the wooden boards of the porch as if looking for something small. She wasn't searching for safety. She was searching for the envelope. She moved toward the recycle bin, lifted the lid, checked inside, then tiptoed to the window ledge and looked through the glass. The camera captured every movement. Her face carried panic, desperation, and calculation all at once. She stayed only a few minutes, pacing, whispering something under her breath, then hurried back to her SUV. The tires squealed slightly as she left. I didn't open the door. I didn't call out. I didn't confront her. I opened my notebook and wrote, 2:12 a.m. Clara attempted entry, motivated by fear of exposure. The courthouse in Boulder never looked intimidating to me. It was built for clarity, not grandeur. I walked through its glass doors with my notebook tucked under my arm and a steady breath. Not nervous, not triumphant, just prepared. Emily met me at the security checkpoint, her briefcase in hand and her expression composed. "You ready?" she asked. "I've been ready for months." We walked down the hallway together. The floor echoed lightly under our shoes, each step matching the pace of a plan that had been unfolding piece by piece. When we entered the courtroom, the air shifted. Not heavy, simply still, the way rooms become when truth is about to be spoken aloud. Clara sat at the defendant's table with her attorney beside her. She wore a charcoal blazer and kept her hair pinned tightly. She didn't look angry. She looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from holding too many versions of a story at once. Michael sat behind her, hands clasped, eyes fixed forward. He looked like someone trying to steady himself in two places at once, loyalty on one side, truth on the other. Emily placed her briefcase on our table and leaned toward me. "Today won't be dramatic. It'll be factual. That's good for us. Facts are all we need." The judge entered, a firm presence with a controlled voice. Everyone rose, then sat again. After reviewing the docket, he motioned to Clara's attorney. "You may begin." Clara's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, this case is rooted in a family misunderstanding. My client acted under emotional distress, overwhelmed by caretaking duties and financial pressure. The transactions in question were never intended as theft, but as miscommunication in a strained family relationship." He turned slightly toward Clara. "She believed she was helping manage the household finances. The apparent errors stem only from stress, not deceit." The judge listened without reaction. When the attorney finished, Emily rose. "Your Honor, we will present a clear timeline of financial rerouting, unauthorized account creation, and repeated inconsistencies in recorded statements. My client has chronicled every date, every visit, every discrepancy with detail and clarity." Emily opened her folder and placed 3 papers on the table. "We will rely on documented fact, not interpretation." The judge nodded. "Proceed." Emily signaled to me. "Mrs. Harper, please step forward." I approached the witness stand. My steps were slow, steady. I took the oath, then sat. Emily began. Mrs. Harper, when did you first notice missing deposits? April, I answered. I reviewed my account statements and saw no deposits for 8 months. And what did you do next? I went to the bank. They confirmed no deposits since April and informed me that someone had called requesting copies of my statements using my name. Emily handed a document to the judge. Bank records, Your Honor. Clara's attorney shifted uncomfortably. Clara didn't move. Emily continued. Did you authorize anyone to request your statements? No. Next, Emily held up another paper. Mrs. Harper, please look at this authorization form. Is this your signature? I examined it. No, the stroke pattern and spacing are not mine. Someone copied it from a medical file I signed while assisting Clara with her father's paperwork. A murmur rippled across the gallery. Clara's shoulders twitched. The judge held the form closer. This appears to be a forged signature. Emily nodded. Yes, Your Honor, and it was used to reroute all deposits to an account not owned by Mrs. Harper. Emily then placed my notebook on the evidence table. Mrs. Harper, tell the court what this notebook contains. Daily entries, dates Clara visited, dates she claimed she visited, her statements, my observations, and every financial inconsistency I encountered. The judge opened it. His eyebrows rose slightly. Every page is dated, every detail cross-referenced. I kept record because I observed patterns, I explained. Patterns reveal truth when emotions try to conceal it. Clara's attorney stood. Mrs. Harper, surely you understand that memory can falter. My memory didn't falter, I cut in calmly. That's why I wrote everything down. He tried again. You may have misunderstood events. Documentation doesn't misunderstand, I replied. Emily rested a hand lightly on the table. She didn't need to interrupt. I handled the moment myself. The judge turned another page of the notebook. This is the clearest personal record I've ever reviewed. Clara looked down at her hands, gripping them tightly. Emily continued. We also have receipts from hospital payments and luxury purchases made from funds intended for Mrs. Harper. She handed the judge a stack. He reviewed them slowly. These amounts are significant, he observed. Emily nodded. And none were disclosed to Michael Harper or to Mrs. Harper. Michael closed his eyes for a moment. Clara's attorney rose again. Your Honor, my client acted out of desperation. She was caring for a sick parent. The judge raised a hand. Desperation may explain motive. It does not negate action. Clara's breath hitched, barely audible. Emily concluded. Your Honor, we request restitution of the missing $48,000, the removal of Clara Harper from all financial authority attached to Michael Harper's accounts, and mandatory financial counseling. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Harper, he addressed Clara directly. Do you wish to speak? Clara stood slowly. Her voice trembled, not from anger, but exhaustion. I was terrified. My father's bills were drowning me. I didn't know what else to do. I thought if I could handle it alone, no one would suffer. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just didn't want to lose everything again. Her voice cracked. I'm not a bad person. I was scared. I met her eyes. Not with hatred, with reality. Fear explains choices, I told her gently. It doesn't erase them. The judge took a long breath. The court orders full restitution of $48,000 to Mrs. Harper. Clara Harper is removed from all access or involvement in Michael Harper's financial accounts. She will attend mandatory counseling for financial ethics and stress management. A silence washed over the room. Clara lowered her head, not in defiance, in acceptance. Michael stared at the table, his hands trembling slightly. Emily touched my arm. It's done. I stood. Before returning to my seat, I looked at Clara one last time. I hope you choose better paths from here, I told her quietly. Her eyes filled, not with anger, just regret. She nodded once, and that was enough. Spring arrived in Boulder slowly. Snow thinned, sidewalks cleared, and the air stopped biting the skin. I didn't rush anything after the hearing. The house stayed quiet, steady, Predictable. I kept my routines, cooked simple meals, and continued writing in my notebook. Not out of necessity now, but out of habit. Order helps the mind stay balanced. One night, rain tapped against the windows in fast patterns. A spring storm rolled in, the kind that comes with sudden wind and brief power flickers. I was in the living room reviewing some brochures for volunteer programs when a hard knock landed on the front door. Not frantic, not polite, heavy. I stood, walked to the peephole, and saw Michael on the porch, soaked from the storm, hair flattened, eyes red. I opened the door. "You're drenched." He didn't answer immediately. His chest rose and fell unevenly, and when he stepped inside, his legs seemed to give out. He sank onto the entryway bench, pressing his palms together, head lowered. "I failed you." His voice was rough, strained. "I defended the wrong person. I trusted the wrong version of my own life." "You trusted what you were taught to trust," I responded. He looked up at me. "I chose blindness." "You chose love," I corrected. "Blindness happened later." He ran a hand over his face. "I ignored the signs. I ignored you. I thought I was protecting my marriage, but I was protecting a lie." "You were protecting the hope that things would improve," I told him, keeping my tone steady. "Hope can mislead good people." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Mom, I'm so sorry." I didn't move closer. I let the words settle between us. Apologies mean more when they land without interruption. After a long moment, I asked, "Why did you come now?" "Because after the hearing, after hearing the judge read your notes, after seeing Clara look at you the way she did, I realized how much you held everything together, quietly, calmly, without attacking anyone. You saw the truth long before anyone else." "I observed," I replied. "That's all." "You protected me," he murmured. "And I didn't protect you." "You're here now." He looked at me again. No defenses left, no excuses, just recognition. "Can you forgive me?" he asked, voice breaking. Forgiveness is a choice, not a reflex. I let a breath move through me. "Yes," I answered, "because you're facing the truth now. That matters." Michael stood slowly, shoulders still trembling. I reached out and placed a hand on his arm. Only then did he step forward and pull me into a tight, shaking embrace. I held him for a few seconds before guiding him to sit again. "Where's Clara?" I asked. He lowered his gaze. "She left this morning. She packed a single suitcase. She left a note on the counter." "Let me hear it." He pulled a folded slip of paper from his pocket and handed it to me. The handwriting was tight and controlled. "I'm sorry. I'm getting help. I won't drag you down anymore." I returned the note. "She admitted the truth. That's the first step." "She asked if I'd visit her when she's ready," he murmured. "That's between you and her," I replied. "Healing doesn't erase consequences. She'll need to learn both." He nodded. Later that week, Michael stopped by daily. Sometimes he helped repair small things around the house. Sometimes we ate dinner in silence. Sometimes we talked about nothing important at all. That's how healing works, side by side, not performed. 2 months later, he approached me with a folder of his own. "I want to build something with you," he explained. "Something good, something that matches the way you handled everything." I opened the folder. Inside were documents for a nonprofit organization, Silver Light Foundation, its mission to support elderly people facing financial manipulation or silent abuse by family members. "I thought you'd want to help others who went through what you did," he said. "I didn't go through something unique," I responded, "but I did go through it clearly. That's why you should lead this." "I'll help build it," I agreed. Michael exhaled with relief. Within weeks, the foundation gained traction. Volunteers offered time. Lawyers donated hours. Accountants contributed expertise. The church hosted the first planning meeting. The work felt clean, focused, purposeful. By early summer, the Boulder Community Organization announced an award ceremony. Reverend Alden nominated me anonymously. I didn't expect anything to come of it, but the letter arrived anyway. Colorado Woman of the Year. The night of the ceremony, the auditorium filled with families, retirees, volunteers, business owners. I wore a simple gray dress, hair pulled back neatly. When they called my name, I walked to the stage calmly. Applause rose around me, but I let it pass through without gripping it. At the podium, I looked at the audience. No need for theatrics, just truth. I didn't win anything because of conflict, I began. I won because I didn't look away from facts, even when they hurt. Clear thinking saves people. It saved me. It saved my family. It can save many more. The room quieted. People listened. I didn't lose family, I continued. I reclaimed myself, and sometimes that allows family to return in a healthier way. I stepped back from the microphone and accepted the plaque without fanfare. Later that night, when I returned home, I placed the plaque on the shelf next to my notebook, the same notebook that carried every line of truth from the past year. Its pages were full now. I closed it gently, not as an ending, as a record. Michael knocked on the door moments later, holding 2 cups of tea. "For us," he murmured. We sat together at the table, quiet, steady, whole. Nothing needed to be said. The truth had already spoken. If my journey spoke to you or reminded you that calm strength still wins in the end, I'm grateful you stayed with me until this moment. If you'd like to hear more stories about family, justice, and the power of standing your ground, you can follow Grandma Life Stories right here. Your support helps these stories reach others who may need them. I'll see you in the next video.